That is a fire ass take, because you watch these videos of these Democratic people that are so pissed that they didn't double down and do something about it. Yep. And you saying that right there, that's why.
It is
100% why.
So so there's no moral fiber. People get pissed about these politicians. Politicians, I don't give a shit whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. You have no moral fiber. You have sold your soul so far down the river that you don't even know who you are when you look in the mirror. So the Democrats, they want to tell you that they are for the little guy, they are for the minority, they are for those that are discriminated against. No, they're not. They are for perpetuating division within our country, because that is how they profit. And they used Roe versus Wade as a fundraising opportunity. That's it. Bottom line.
So you're saying he's going to take all the arrows, because they're all the attention from the media and the left and the establishment is going to be focusing on stopping Trump in any possible way they can, doing all the stories on Trump, so they're not focused on doing stories on DeSantis and bringing him down. And then when that's done and DeSantis, it's almost like they're going to do a shake and bake.
Yep. Yeah.
Ricky Bobby style, baby. Slingshot engage.
I think they honest to God are going to slingshot.
They're going to do a slingshot.
All of the food we eat and much of the clothing we wear comes from plants and animals that are raised on farms. Farms are different in type, in size, and even in name.
Welcome to Barn Talk. Shit looks a little different today, and I'm amped up. Back in Dad's day, if you couldn't keep quiet in study hall, you would get detention. And one of the favorite punishments was to write the study hall rules from the student handbook 10 times. Dad would never quite get to the end of that because he ran out of time. Today, the rules are out the window. We're going to just let her eat, and we're going to just say what we want. And we got no restrictions. Study hall doesn't got shit on us. And we got a new studio today. We got a new setup. As you can see, we're in some comfortable chairs now. We don't have any headphones anymore, but everything else looks so much nicer, and it feels comfortable, and it just feels better. What do you think, Dad?
It is a very relaxed setting.
It is a relaxed setting. And it's kind of weird not shooting with headphones, because we've always shot with headphones, but we're going to get used to it. But this is going to be the setup going forward. I don't think we're going to change for a very, very long time. We wanted to make a new setup because the old setup that we had with the table, we couldn't have 4 people on very easily. And we really wanted the opportunity, and, we wanted to be able to have 4 people on eventually. So this will give us that opportunity, which is nice. Before we get into all this stuff today, you guys know the drill. If you get any value from the show, pay the fee. If you related it to us on something, if you learned something, if we made you laugh, share the show. That's a ticket to admission to watch or listen to the show. We're trying to grow this thing, trying to do some great things in this world, and we're just trying to give our opinion to the world. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. We appreciate all the reviews on Spotify and Apple. And I know for you guys listening on Apple, you don't really get to see the studio much. But I'm telling you, if you want to check out the new studio, it's pretty sick. You better head over to YouTube, subscribe, check it out on there. Or if you listen on Spotify, we got video on Spotify too, so you can watch it and listen to it at the same time. So,
yeah, if you wait long enough, there'll be clips. There'll be clips on TikTok. So, Barn Talk on TikTok has the clips that we cut down. There's kind of a backlog because we get a lot of clips because there's so many profound things that we
profound things
but
Torque says.
Eventually you'll see some clips out of it. It's a pretty sweet setup, a lot more laid back. And like Sawyer said, the table, it's a big table. And when we put it in here, we thought, yeah, this will be perfect. But what really screws that up is trying to get the camera angles to where you can get everybody in a camera, but nobody else's hands or head or mic is in that shot. And when you start trying to do that, there's just not enough room.
Yeah, you just got to have some more space.
And so this really works great. It spreads things out, a lot more comfortable. So this is what we're going to go with.
Yep.
So you want a little market update?
I say we got to do it since we got the new setup. I can't do this without it.
Yeah. So I'll get through this as quick as we can because we have a lot. We've got a lot of great subjects to talk about today. There's a lot going on. So oil's about $90, so it came up a little bit, but still, it's not anywhere near what it was. And I think that inflation and everything else going on around in the United States has hurt demand. I saw a report the other day about what the demand for oil is worldwide, and it's actually declining. Now, that wouldn't be true in Europe because they're kind of under the gun and they're trying to find energy everywhere they can. But for the rest of the world, because of price, it's really starting to hurt people in their pocketbooks, and people aren't traveling as much, people aren't driving as much, and so as a result, demand is starting to get curbed, which will probably drive the price of oil down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your gas price is going to go down, as we all well know. But anyway, corn, $6.25 on the board. Eddyville had a $7.53 bid, so they must have had a hot deal. And it was up on the board when I looked. Soybeans were $7.25 and $6.25 at the river, and I think that was at Meeker's. And a few cents higher across the river in Illinois. Bean meal's $528 a ton. I don't know if that is like a high, whether that's like a 52-week high or not, but that's pretty damn high. Wheat, $8. Hogs, $122 on the board. Now, the Western Corn Belt, which not as many people sell their pigs on the Western Corn Belt as they used to, but the Western Corn Belt price is about $130, so it's a little ahead of that. Cattle, $130. Tesla is $875. It's up right now, but it was up over 900. And with the news about the stock split in the annual meeting, it's usually like buy the rumor and sell the news, and that's kind of where we're at on that. Ethereum's $1,825, so it's actually come up a little better than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's $24,000. Cardano, ADA, 53 cents. Gold, $1,800, $1,810 actually, and silver's about $20. So that is your fast and hot market update.
I like it. Rapito. Rapid.
Si es verdad.
Yeah, I like it. Is there one thing you want to comment on the market update that you really want to hone in on, or are you?
Well, it's interesting. Like I've talked about this before, but just the sheer volume of news that is generated by Tesla is crazy to me. But the amount of negative news it's just insane on a daily basis how many people are just kind of anything to get clicks. So there's a story that children aren't detected by Tesla's autopilot software,
but cones are.
Supposedly someplace did a study and they put like child mannequins on the road.
Who paid for the study? Ford?
I don't know. I didn't get into that, but it wasn't actual children. It was mannequins of children, and the Tesla didn't see the mannequin and it smoked it. So Tesla's a killer. Killer
of children.
So anyway, the only other thing I'll say is,
they put that out there. Whoever paid for that study and did that study, they put that out there because the most dangerous thing in this world is a mama that knows that their cubs are in danger.
That's 100%.
And the moms, they'll come.
They
for
see
you.
that and they're
They'll
like,
come
"No,
for
siree,
nope,
Bill, you're not buying that Tesla.
Exactly.
It's going to kill our child."
They know.
Yep. That's true. You're smart. I hadn't thought about that. But as we get into the inflation, what's that bill called? The Inflation Reduction Act. Inflation Reduction Act. We're going to talk about that. So Tesla plays a part in that, of course, because there's a lot of green energy stuff in it. And we'll talk a little bit about the silliness of all that.
I'm fired up today because we haven't talked politics in a little bit. We haven't talked much about this kind of stuff in a while, and that stuff always tends to fire me up, tends to fire Dad up, tends to fire you guys up too, because they're honestly one of our most liked podcasts. So you guys really seem to enjoy it. You must relate to it in some level, which is great to see. So we're going to continue to do it because we think it's important. We talk politics because it's important, because the state of the country right now is messed up, and I want freedom for my kids and his grandkids and my great-grandkids. We got to keep this country intact. If we just shut up, nothing's going to happen. So we got to speak up. Don't be a sheep. Yeah, don't be a little
We need to
sheep.
give it a disclaimer for those of you that might be easily offended that this is not a safe space.
Yeah, this is not a safe space for you. So if you don't like our politic talk, that's totally okay. That's fine. I still like you. I think you're great for supporting what we do. You're great, but this might just not be for you.
Yeah.
We talk farming, we talk business, we talk entrepreneurship, we talk investment. We also talk politics, and today's going to be a political talk.
Well, because
get on the train or get off the train, one of the two.
At the end of the day, the politics are going to really affect business. It's going to affect a lot of small business.
That's a thing. Like, we can talk business and farming all day long and how to make a buck and how to invest right and all that stuff. But if the opportunity to become wealthy goes away because our country changes in a way that no longer gives us that opportunity, well, there's no point in even talking. There's no point in even talking because then there's no purpose.
When there's no business left, you can't talk about
Exactly. So it's important. It's important to talk about it. And I feel like more and more people are speaking up, and more people, I just feel like we've been told to be silent, but when you rise up and talk, people relate to you and they don't feel alone. And if we can unite as a country, the best way we can unite as a country again is to talk about things so we can, talk about things and unite again and not be silent, because that's what they want.
I've got you and you've got me, so we're okay.
Yep, that's right. And we got you guys too.
There you go.
You got us.
Side note, this Mark
Kumbaya
update is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer. Official summer drink of This'll Do Farm.
No sponsor, but we do love them. They are damn good, especially on the boat if you want to get one.
They are pretty good.
All right, so before we get into all the political stuff, we're going to talk a little farming. So what's the crops looking like here in good old Iowa?
I am amazed that they look as good as they do here in southeast Iowa. We have literally had 3/10 of rain in the last maybe 3 weeks, I would say, and probably, I'm sure, less than a half an inch of rain in the last 5 weeks, I would say. We haven't gotten hardly anything. Everything is either going south of us or north of us. And some corn, the corn on the marginal ground is really starting to look tough. It's the tip back. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tip back. And I'm not sure, like the beans, I don't know what the bean crop's going to be, but the corn crop, it's already hurt, I'm sure. I just don't know to what level. And we'll probably go out here in the next few days and pull some ears and see how shallow and how much tip back is going. But it isn't good, and I think there's places that are obviously worse off than us, but we have traditionally always lucked out. We've had this pattern where it gets dry in late July, and we've had many years where it's like, boy, it better rain. But then we've always caught a decent rain and gotten us through, and this year we haven't done that. So it's definitely going to affect us. I don't know how bad it'll be, and I think that's reflected in the markets. Rain this year has been pretty spotty all over the Midwest.
North of us has gotten so much rain.
Yeah, and southern Illinois has gotten a pile of rain. There was flooding down around St. Louis. A guy that I know from down by Ladonia, Missouri, I've seen they've had a lot of rain down there, and but they were dry early, but then they caught some rain, and that's the way we usually are, but we haven't gotten it this year. So it's definitely going to affect us, but I just don't know how bad at this point. So
yeah, it kind of sucks because out of all the years that we need a good crop for just the world, this is one of those years.
Yeah.
So we kind of really do need the production. It would have been really nice to have a good crop this year. So
yeah, side note on that, I haven't seen another story on this, but I think the Russians, the part of Ukraine that they control, I saw a story that basically they're in there as harvest starts, like they're bringing in people to harvest that crop, and they're taking it for themselves. I mean, obviously they would because they're planning on controlling the country, but there was that agreement that was signed about them getting grain out of Ukraine. And I don't know at the end of the day whether that'll really have much effect on the world markets, because it all goes back to the shipping and the transport. And there's a lot of insurance companies that are not going to insure transport ships going into the Black Sea. So even though the Russians may allow it, their Navy may say, okay, we're not going to do anything. That may or may not equate to grain actually moving out of the Black Sea. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're short everywhere. And there's definitely going to be people in this world that are going to be in a world of hurt. Countries that have predominantly traded, gotten their grain out of Ukraine, gotten their grain out of Russia. All of this has affected those trade routes, and it's going to have a ripple effect around the world. So I don't know how it'll end up, but it probably won't be good.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, we're going to go on a more positive note here. Farm projects around here. You know, what can we control as farmers? Because you can't really control the crop much. You do what you can in the beginning, but after that, it's kind of up to Mother Nature. So that is what it is. But around here, we're doing some farm projects. Obviously, we made this huge switch up here in the barn. We also, Dad put in a, what'd you put in? I forgot.
Oh, the breaker box?
Breaker box. Put in a breaker box. We're going to try to get some power in here eventually. We're going to try to make this thing completely critter-proof. We still have some barn swallows that find their way in here. I don't know how, but we're going to have to find some holes and patch them. And we're getting really rolling on our offices over here to the left of me. There's a door. We're going to have some offices up here, and that's going to be the next move for the barn. So it's coming along slowly but surely. Roof is done, insulated. We talked about that already. Loading pigs, getting pigs at 2 different places right now, which is busy, but it's, it is what it is. What else? What else we got on the...
When they did the roof, we put a new roll-up door in one end of the machine shed, and I got a quote from a guy that probably not till about harvest, because I'm a little leery. I'm probably not going to spend the money for the concrete until I know whether I have a crop or not, but I'm planning to pour more of the shop floor or more of the floor in the machine shed, and I've got to pour enough where I put the roll-up door in, because right now there's about a 6-inch gap underneath of it, and that's not going to be good come winter. But we got to get that poured. We got the bins all empty, like Sawyer said, out of here. So all the oats is out of the barn, and we're going to continue to work on getting that cleaned up. And we may have said this in the past, but everything you see today is running off of basically 2 drop cords. One's running to one bin, and one is running to another bin, and then we bring them in, and they're pigtailed together to run to the outlets that are in the floor. Probably not the best. I hope my insurance man's not listening. But anyway, it's all run off of plug fuses and all that. And
this'll do, baby.
Yeah, this'll do. So we're going to get that switched over and get a new main in and new breaker boxes and get a bunch of power ran. And then that goes in with, our goal then is to do something as far as heating and cooling to where come late this fall, we don't want to move back to Sawyer's garage.
Yeah, we're not moving again. I don't care if I got to sit up here with a coat. I will stay up here.
Yeah.
I'm not moving.
So that's the plan. So we're going to get that done.
All right. So that's all your little farm update too. Talk about some ag a little bit, but now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. Was it passed yesterday or 2 days ago?
I think 2 days ago.
2 days ago it was passed. $740 billion bill. $360 billion is going towards green energy. And what I've observed and heard from people is they're going to make it pretty hard on oil and gas. And they want to cut the carbon emissions in half by 2030 by all the shit that they're doing. Tax credits for EVs used, you'll get $4,000, and for new, you'll get $7,500.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so I mean, here's the deal. Whether you hate green energy or not, Tesla's going to win. And we've been saying this from the freaking beginning of this podcast. We're big Tesla guys, and it's not because we're all about environmental. That's not our only reason of like Tesla. The big reason is their cars are freaking awesome. They go fast. It's like a computer in a car. And they're going to win long term. They're a great company to be a part of and invest in. This is not financial advice, but they're going to win long term regardless of the administration. They're in it for the long run, and that's the kind of companies you want to be.
They're going to win despite the administration.
Yeah.
So it's really curious about.
Well, they won. They won with Trump. They're winning now with Biden. So it doesn't matter.
It's really interesting because, first of all, Tesla was against, and they are today. If you asked Elon or anybody on the board, they were against all of this EV rebate, EV tax credits because they didn't need it. They're firm believers in the market and capitalism and let the market decide. And they're winning. Their backlog of orders is
insanity.
Yeah, it's crazy. So they're not worried about their business model, whatever. And this bill, so the EV part of it is just an example of how shady, I guess I would call the legislation, because that tax credit, it's not just, I guess I call them a BEV, so a battery electric vehicle. It's also hybrid vehicles. So a hybrid vehicle, so a good example of that is like Jeep makes a hybrid Jeep, and the battery in it is like maybe somebody will correct me on it, like 4 or 7 kilowatts. It's a very small battery. So in other words, it's got an engine in it, and when you're driving it, the engine charges the battery, and then you can run on the battery. But in that vehicle, the battery probably only gets you 40 miles. And it does nothing for the environment because the weight of the battery so it's basically a regular Jeep with a regular engine, but then it has the added weight of the battery. So it actually gets poorer gas mileage than the vehicle without the battery. And then all of the money that you pay to have that battery in it, you only get 35 or 40 miles. And when you average that back into what the mileage is, it's really not a whole lot better than what it is if you didn't have the battery to start. Okay, the problem is that vehicle qualifies if it meets all the other stuff as far as where the ingredients that went into the battery came from, because that's a big part of it. Part of this is that the vehicle has to be made in America by a certain percentage of the parts have to be assembled within America. So the Mustang Mach-E doesn't qualify because it's made in Mexico. So doesn't apply to that. I think the F-150 Lightning more than likely will. However, you have to prove to the government where the ingredients that went into the battery came from, and if they don't come from a country that we have a free trade agreement or that they're part of the WTO or whatever it is, then you don't get as much money because the battery materials don't qualify. And that is going to be so hard for the government. They don't have a clue, and there's no language in there. I would assume that that part of it will be investigated by the National Highway Transit Safety Board or the Transportation Department. How are they going to check that? They don't even know how to figure out where the sourcing comes from. So it's going to be very hard for a lot of this to get done, and I don't know how long it's going to take. But my point is, like the hybrid vehicles, they're going to get money, and the reason it was written that way is that way companies that are so far behind, like GM, Ford, Jeep, Honda, they're going to be able to continue to sell internal combustion vehicles. That's basically what they are, and they're going to be able to give their customers a rebate, and all it is money to try to prop them up.
So you're saying they're going to turn everything into a hybrid so that they can give everybody a tax credit?
Yes.
So they can continue selling gas combustion engines so they have a longer time horizon before they have to switch fully electric.
100%. And meanwhile, Tesla, they're going to get a lot of money out of this, but they don't really need it, and they've said they don't really need it. And side note, for anybody that's a hater on Tesla, Tesla is the most American-made vehicle out there. They're the vehicles they sell in the United States that are made in Fremont or at Giga Texas. They have the most American-made components in them of anything, and they're only going to get more so because their goal is to vertically integrate and control more of the manufacturing. And
well, I'm just going to stop you quick. I think when people hear, the tax credit or pushing EVs, everyone instantly thinks of Tesla because they are like the known brand for EVs.
Because that's all they make.
That's all they make.
Right.
But they don't know that Elon says, we don't need this. We don't need this. You don't need the government to push this. Yeah. Let us just do our thing.
Let the free market decide.
But everybody looks at it and they think that Elon's greasing Biden to get it done. But he's come out and said many times, we don't need it. Yeah. We'll let free capitalism control this.
And what it comes down to is it isn't that Tesla lobbied anybody. It's that your ice makers, your legacy auto, GM and Ford and Fiat Chrysler, they're screwed. I mean, they are totally screwed. And I'll argue with anybody that wants to argue with me about that. General Motors, Mary Barta should have been fired 2 years ago probably. And she just flat out lies. I mean, if you watch what she says, there is no way that they will get to where they claim they're going to be with, I don't care how much money the U.S. government gives them, they're not going to get there. And the market will decide unless, and this gets into the bill that we're talking about, if people are allowed to make a free decision and if government does not interfere, Tesla is going to completely dominate the industry. Now then, as we've seen, the government, I'd say nothing's off the table as far as what they're willing to do to get the outcome that they want.
I mean, if that's the truest statement you've ever said, because it's like last 2-3 years, they've shown that 100%. Yeah. Whatever outcome they need, they'll do whatever it takes.
That's about enough about that.
Yeah, no, I get it. $360 billion for green energy. And the thing that I just can't wrap my head around, and this is what people won't say about climate change, but I think Dad and I both can attest to this. It's like, if they really cared about climate change, why do we continue to buy garbage that we put on our shelves here in America that are made from China, India, Vietnam, Singapore, Sri Lanka? These countries could give a fuck less about climate. Yeah. They don't care. We had Huey B. Cool on the podcast, and he went over to China to look at insect farming. And he said there was a couple days there where the industry fog was so bad, the smog from all the factories was so bad, you couldn't see, that they sent everybody home. All the citizens couldn't be on the street. You had to go home, sit inside till the smog cleared. And guess what they did after the smog cleared? Fired it all right back up. These countries don't care. And if we cared, we wouldn't buy these products from these countries that are making these products to put on our shelves in a shitty way. But they don't care. It's a money grab. It is a money grab. And it's the same thing with billionaires flying on jets. If they cared, they wouldn't fly on private jets and fly all over anywhere they go. They wouldn't fly. Because let's be honest, airplanes ain't good. They're probably the worst. And then the other thing I find is funny is everyone wants to say the sea level is going to rise so high and we're going to be in a panic and Florida's going to be gone. Why do banks finance? Why do billionaires buy vacation homes in these areas? Why do people finance these areas that are supposedly going to be gone and wiped out by climate change? If that was the case, people wouldn't finance these places. You wouldn't put property on it. Millionaires wouldn't buy assets down there because they're smart enough not to. But they don't. They continue to do it.
Yep.
It's a money grab, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's bad to be pro-climate and try to, help the world in a bigger way and whatever. But we have to be realistic about it.
Yeah.
We can do it in a way that we're pushing this green stuff so much, I think, too fast. Is the power grid even ready? Can we handle if everyone bought an EV? I don't think we could.
No.
So why are we pushing it that hard?
Yeah.
Let's be smart about it. Let's be realistic about it and not have to force this shit down people's throats.
Well, and it goes an awful lot back to ESG scores. So part of the reason that climate change is being pushed as a narrative, and that green energy is being pushed as a narrative, and when we had Mitchell Hoare on, it trickles right out to agriculture. Within this bill, there is a shitload of money. I can't remember how many $1 billion or how many $100 million is in there for farmers, because they're going to incentivize planting cover crop, going
Solar.
no-till, filter strips, which that's good. That's good if you are a farmer where that will work for you. But I go back to you take, and I didn't know this, we've talked about this before, but like Millennial Farmer,
Minnesota.
when you're up in northern part of the United States, you can't no-till, and you can't, because if you do, they get such a short growing window. The reason they till that soil is
They got to warm it up.
to get it warmed up enough that they can plant and the plants will germinate. So if you don't do that, your growing season is even that much shorter. Okay, in a world that we're already short on food, do you really want to push people and push farmers to adopt practices that are not the best suited for the area of the country that they're farming? And that's my question is, that's where let the market decide.
I don't think they look into it that far.
No, I don't think they do either.
Which is unfortunate.
Painting everything with a broad brush.
Yeah.
So for me, if I plant cover crop, it's not because I'm getting an incentive to do it. I think at one point there was an incentive to do it in the state of Iowa, and we didn't do it. And we've been toying with doing it for a while. But if we do it, we're going to do it because I think the benefits.
Where we are at, it benefits us to no-till. We don't need to till.
And us going to no-till benefited us. And we're not what I'd call, we're not a true no-tillers because we do a little bit of, I don't know what you want to call it. When we use a mechanical stock chopper, which does just a little bit of tillage actually. But, we do it because the economics work for us. But when you start arbitrarily, first you incentivize, but then you force people to do practices that may or may not actually help them. I don't think that's where we want to go. And that's kind of where this whole bill is they're trying to force an outcome instead of letting the market. And let's face it, that's where we're at with the government we have today. And it's both sides. It's Republican and Democrat, because there's so many of them that are so invested in government that they don't even realize how far down that road they are.
Yeah,
they are scared of the market, and they do not want the market to decide the outcomes.
They don't want the people.
They want to decide the outcomes.
Yeah. Last point I'll say about the green, or what I was talking about earlier about climate. The other thing that I just can't wrap my head around, and I think most Americans are naive to, is the fact that I think we're 6% of total land mass in the entire world. And we think just if we do everything here in the United States for pro-climate, that's going to make a huge impact. Let me break it down. That's not. That we could do everything and anything, and if no one else does anything, there's no point. And I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but until we can get everyone else on board, let's be realistic about it.
Yep.
Let's be smart about it. Let's not force shit down people's throats, because no one else in the world, I mean, there's other countries that are, but a lot of countries aren't. If those people don't get on board, let's slow the fucking roll a little bit.
Unless your government has the goal, or unless your government is part of a greater group of people whose goal is to slow down the progress of the United States and hinder the business environment in the United States and lower the living standard, the GDP, and the productivity of the American people to get us closer to where the rest of the world is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that was your goal, this bill works really well for that.
Yep.
And so all of you conspiracy theorists out there, if you want to talk about one world government and the new world order, which that gets talked about a lot. And there's a lot of these.
It's more and more people are talking about it because a lot of shit's come out.
And that's how it is. I mean, I think at the end of the day,
elitists. And I mean, who's profiting the most off of this green shit? The people that are the elites that are invested in this, the elites that have businesses that are behind these new things, they're behind it. They're going to get paid. And it's unfortunate, but it's all back to money.
Yeah.
Money talks. People want money. They want power. And the people that are shoving this down our throats are the ones that are going to be profiting the most.
Yeah. I agree.
So
I agree.
That's all I'll say about that. Next, we'll get in the healthcare part of this bill. The bill is aiming to lower the costs of prescription drugs for Medicare. So people over the age of 65 years old, they will not cost more than $2,000 out of pocket by 2025. And I thought this was funny because here we go. We have, so Mark Cuban, love him or hate him, he's kind of a polarizing guy. He's a billionaire, owns the Mavericks. He's on Shark Tank. You all probably know him. But he started a company called Cost Plus Drugs. You go to costplusdrugs.com, and he is really, really changing the pharmaceutical industry. He is already bringing the cost of pharmaceutical drugs significantly down versus everybody else, because all he's doing is he is paying the manufacturing of the drug, adding a 15% markup, and then he's putting a little charge for pharmacy labor on it. And if you go to that website, I encourage every single one of you to go to costplusdrugs.com and check it out. If you go to the website, they show what they are charging for their drugs on that website versus the competition. It is insane how much cheaper it is on that website because he's eliminating the middleman. The middleman of the pharmaceutical industry is the devil because they want to cut and they ramp up the prices of these drugs because they're trying to get us to get some.
And they have agreements with all of
big
your
pharma.
large,
right?
Like in the state of Iowa, Wellmark Blue Cross. In California, it's probably, isn't it Pfizer Presidente or something like that? Kaiser Presidente, Aetna. I can't remember what all these big insurance companies are, but so many of these drug companies and the middlemen, the brokers, they have a very incestuous relationship with the insurance companies as to what they're going to pay for that drug and what you're going to pay for that drug. And basically what Mark Cuban's doing is he's taking that middle out and he's eliminating that middleman.
Yeah,
and
which brings it down significantly. Yeah, I was going to say.
The insurance lobby is all over it.
Yeah.
They hate it. They freaking hate it.
And I actually watched a podcast of him talking about it. And someone asked him, "Are you scared?" Because Big Pharma, I don't care what you say, Big Pharma's got power. They've had power. They have a lot of money behind them, and they have a lot of power. And does it scare you that you're going after this big industry? And he said, "Well, it does a little bit, but I don't care, and I think it's necessary for the American, for people. Give them cheaper drugs. It's a problem, and it's awesome. And I think it's so great because this is an example of a billionaire that's a capitalist that doesn't have to tax anybody to get this shit done. He's just doing it off pure capitalism. He's helping people in a massive way, and he doesn't have to tax any other American person to get this shit going and getting it done. And the other thing that's great about it is he doesn't have to wait till 2025 to get this fucking shit rolling. He's already starting. He's doing it right now.
It'll be interesting to see if he can get to mass adoption of it.
Well, not all the drugs are available on the website. He has a lot, though. I mean, he has a lot on there. I was looking at arthritis, and they had Nubatone on there, significantly lower. So they have categories of whatever ailment or disease you have, and then it has the drugs that they have on the website, and it compares them to the competition. And I think the more that it grows, the more the adoption rate gets. I think they'll get more drugs on board because I think more people will partner with them. And I think it's a good thing. I really do. I think it's a great thing. And I think it's great because no one has to pay for it besides Mark Cuban just being a pure capitalist.
Yeah, this is a little caveat.
Love it.
Little caveat to that. One thing I thought that was really curious. So drug companies, the only way they make money is to come out with new drugs, because when you patent a drug, it's only patented for so long before it goes generic. And everything Cuban has is probably a generic version of something that's coming off patent, because if it was patented, I doubt whether he would be able to get it manufactured. Maybe he can, because you pay a licensing fee to them, and then you can probably manufacture it. But here's something for all you natural people out there. You cannot patent a naturally occurring compound. So when you hear the story about, and I'll use this about when COVID started and people were talking about what was the drug? Chloroquine?
Hydrochloroquine.
Okay. That drug's been around forever, and it's totally off patent, and the cost is almost nothing. It's a malaria drug. Well,
and doctors used it in the early stages when COVID started, and it was working.
And the lobby killed that because they couldn't make any money.
They shut it down, and they demonized it.
But then another big thing that started during COVID is people were talking about vitamin C, vitamin D, what was the other?
Zinc.
Zinc. Drug companies want nothing to do with that, because you cannot make any money off of a naturally occurring compound. And I'm not going to put on my tinfoil hat, but when you talk about, say, just for example, you talk about essential oils. That's like voodoo. And part of the reason that it is voodoo is because nobody can patent the extract that you take from a plant, whether that be an oil or whether that be any kind of compound. So there's no money to be made. And if there's no money to be made, then it's the devil. And big pharma wants nothing to do with any of that.
And they'll demonize it. They'll write the narrative on it. And it's the same with like CBD oil.
Yeah.
I've rubbed CBD. I don't care. I've rubbed CBD oil on my aches and pains, and right before I go to bed, and it works. It helps me out a little bit. So, that's a beautiful thing about cannabis in that way. So.
I think you'll find a common thread in most of the conversations that we have here on Barn Talk is, and I would challenge any of you, and we've talked about this before, but any story that you hear, just start thinking about who's going to profit from it, and start thinking about the stream of money, because most decisions that are made within government and within corporations, and when somebody tells you that you shouldn't use this,
or you should do this,
and it's not cocaine or something that's obviously bad for you. But when somebody's telling you, oh, you shouldn't use this drug, or you shouldn't use this natural compound, or you shouldn't do this, start thinking to yourself, well, the person that's telling you that, what is their incentive? Why would they say that? And basically 10 out of 10 times, you're going to find that it's money.
Greased. They're getting greased somehow.
There's a reason why they're telling you that, because they can't, one side of that story they can't gain anything from, so they're telling you a story or a narrative that somehow they're going to profit
And
from.
the sad part is it might not be the best for the American people, or just people in general.
Right.
You want to talk about pharmaceuticals, that's the truth. Sometimes that's not the best for the person. So, yeah, I agree. So
Taxes.
we're getting into the taxes part of this bill. So this is a kind of controversial part of the bill, I'd say, because some people are saying, if you make less than $400K a year, you're going to get taxed 15%. And then there's people that say, you're only going to get taxed 15% if you make $1 billion or more in profit a year. And what I found personally on the bill is if you make $1 billion or more a year profit, you're going to get taxed 15%. And there's going to be gas and oil imports, like I said earlier, the Green New Deal. They're going to try to make it as hard as possible to do gas and oil. They're trying to ramp up the oil gas tax, all that stuff, raise prices on us. But there was another example of a guy that was talking about this bill and how it's going to affect a lot of the manufacturing in the United States, and especially like the food. Just for example, the food. And I thought this was really interesting. So I want to throw this in here. But so manufacturers and wholesalers will likely be responsible for paying 59% of the $313 billion. This will likely impact manufacturers and producers of poultry, meat, frozen food, soft drinks, and alcohol, as well as their distributing partners. all of whom directly or indirectly provide products to nation's restaurants. These partners will likely have to pass on many of these costs to restaurant owners. And then who is going to have to pay for what the restaurant owners do after they get affected by their manufacturers and their partners? Like, who's going to pay? The end consumer.
And me.
The end consumer and their employees are going to have to pay. And this is the whole idea of this. So yes, this sounds great in theory. We're going to
make those evil. We're going to make those evil corporations pay all this tax
the
money.
rich. Tax the rich.
Get them bastards.
What they don't get is, and nowhere in this bill does we do the 15% on the $1 billion corporations, but there's nowhere in this bill that says that those corporations then cannot cut wages or raise the prices of their products. It doesn't say that. It says, we're going to tax you 15%, but we don't really care what you do after you get taxed 15%. So what do you think that they're going to do?
Or they'll just leave that industry. So I think this is just the craziest. It is just the craziest disconnect. Government has just an insane disconnect with how the world works.
Well, I believe that they do know how it works, and they know that it is going to affect us because they look at the middle class as a money cow. Well, no, they look at us like we're going to profit the most from them.
Yeah.
Because they will have to pay.
Right.
Because the billionaires, we're going to tax the rich because it sounds nice.
So if you have a corporation, so the S&P 500, most corporations, if at the end of the day they can't bring 20% gross profit to the bottom line, they're not going to do very well because of their cost structure and the bureaucracy to run that corporation and all their expenses. Now, granted, you take somebody like GM, their margin is not anywhere near 20%. But a lot of industries, that's what they're shooting for. So, and there's no, like that entity doesn't hold any money. I guess I need to think of a better way to put that, but that's a mechanism to transfer wealth to the people, the stockholders. So they will hold money if they feel like they can turn around and invest that money to grow the business. But there's a lot of people a pure capitalist would argue that a corporation should pay zero tax because all of the money that they make goes to paying employees, building, maintaining factories, paying the power bill, paying the water bill.
They're providing a good or a service to benefit society.
So everything they manufacture is going to get taxed. So they're getting taxed on all the raw materials they buy. The product's getting taxed by the people that buy it. All of the employees, the money that they pay them in wages is taxed. The dividends that the stockholders get are taxed. So the corporation is a mechanism to create wealth, create profit from supplying something to fulfill a need. So you could make the argument that, and all these companies pay property taxes on these factories and all the stuff that goes with it. So the idea is that at the end of the day, some people would argue that they shouldn't pay any tax. Well, the government, obviously, there's a lot of money there. They see a lot of money. So we're going to tax them. We're going to tax their profit. Whatever they make above their cost, that profit, we're going to tax it. What you don't understand is if you are a manufacturer of fill in the blank, and the playing field is level to where you and your competitors are all going to pay this tax. So today you were paying no tax on this part of your profit. Tomorrow, everybody that's in your industry is paying 15% on that profit, or they're paying 15% more than what they were paying before. They don't just say, shit, that sucks, we're going to have to pay that. No, they don't. Their cost of manufacturing that good that you're going to buy or that service that you're going to buy just went up by 15%.
Or it went up by 8% and they cut wages by 7%.
Yeah, however you want
to do it.
That cost is going to be passed on. So in economics, one of the only exceptions to that is the farmer, because people, a great analogy is that a farmer pays retail for everything to create a product that they sell wholesale, and they don't set their price. But we're the exception, because pretty much everybody else, they set their price. Now, granted, if the price is high enough and nobody buys it, then they have to lower their price. But what I'm saying is, in this situation, if everybody that's making baby formula, their cost goes up by whatever, they're all going to raise their price. So when you go to the store, it's not like you're going to have the choice of, oh, well, now then this one is 15% higher than this one, I'm going to buy this one. No, they're all going to be that much higher because they all got this tax. So when it all trickles down, all of this artificial manipulation that the tax game plays, when we make a corporation pay, ultimately you pay for it. The consumer pays for it. And when you get that down, whatever demographic buys that, whether that's upper class, middle class, lower class, whatever, the people that are at the very bottom within that class are the ones that can least afford to pay that tax, to pay that added cost. They are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. And that is what's going to happen with this. Anytime that there is more tax added to business, to the cost of doing business, that cost ultimately trickles down to those that can least afford it.
And then you got people that say, well, why don't they just pay their fair share? Why can't they be good Samaritans and pay their fair share? If you were in that situation, you build $1 billion business from the ground up and you play the tax code the way you've always played the tax code, and you're one of the smartest people. Arguably, these billionaires, obviously, they build $1 billion business. They're smart with the tax code. They're smart with money. What do you think? What in your right mind thinks that they're going to just change their mind and become a good Samaritan right away? And not saying that they're not a good Samaritan. They are. They provide a service or a product to the world, and that's in their mind, that's good enough. That's a great thing to do. That's a noble thing to do. So why would? And here's the other thing: why would they want to pay 15% to the government and to make a decision on what to do with that money when they can take control into their own hands and control their own destiny?
They can deploy capital at the point that they think best suits their business.
Right. Instead of giving it to the government, they're going to figure out a way to try to help their business and keep it going. And, well, you know.
And let's just be honest. Let's be honest. Okay, if we're talking about government, we're not going to be honest because government's not honest. But the whole tax code within the United States is complete and utter bullshit, and it is controlled by lobbyists within the government and within lobbyists within agencies of the government. So we could have a tax code in this country that was probably, let's just say, it could be 5 pages long. You could have a tiered tax system of a flat tax on corporations, individuals, all entities. It's not that hard. But to do that, you would just have to eliminate all of the tax code, all of the loopholes, all the incentives. And I'm a beneficiary. Every single one of us here is a beneficiary of an incentive. So there is, if you have children, you have a deduction for every child you have. You get married, you file jointly, there's an advantage to that. You give charitable donations, there's an advantage to that. For me, I put solar panels on my hog buildings a few years ago. I got a tax credit for putting those solar panels on, so I'm just like these corporations. I played the game. Now, it was a benefit to me regardless of whether I got the tax credit or not, but the tax credit definitely made it more beneficial to me, so I did it. So I took that benefit and I used it to the maximum. If you wanted a simplified tax code that was fair to everybody, you could probably do it in 5 pages. However, the amount of money that's spent on lobbying, and the amount of money that is spent within the lawyer lobby, that's why we don't have what do they call it? When setting maximums on lawsuits, that's why we have the problem with people just suing the shit out of anybody they can over the stupidest stuff, is because we've never had tort reform, I think is what it's called, is tort reform. There is money being thrown at every politician to not reform the tax code.
Make it easier for people. They don't want to make it easier.
They want to make it more complicated. So when you get pissed that some corporation isn't getting taxed by some tax because they're paying some accounting lobby or some lawyer / accountants that they have found a loophole
to avoid tax.
Well, you can't blame them, because if they don't do it, their competition is doing it, and that makes them less competitive. And the next thing you know, they're out of business. And then those people that work for that company,
out of jobs.
It is, you've got to look at the world bigger than the
You
frame.
can't look at headlines, folks. We just read this. It sounds good in theory. This sounds good on paper. 15% tax the rich, tax the billion-dollar companies.
Yep.
But what you just said is what is going to happen. That is going to happen. It's already happened. It will continue to happen as many times as the government continues to push this shit.
At the end of the day, taxes always end up hurting the people who can least afford it, because it raises the cost of goods that people buy.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
simple as that.
Yep.
Drop
the mic.
No, I dropped my sheet, so I don't even know what we talked about after this.
No, but I was just gonna say, it's so right. If they really wanted us to be able to understand taxes better, they would make it more simple. But they do it for a reason. They confuses the shit out of us for a reason. So can't look at everything with. You can't look at every headline and just go, that's it. That's all that's behind it, because there's a lot more that meets the eye.
So the other part of this bill is that it looks like I'm going to get my own personal IRS agent. So does that mean, like, when I have a question, when I'm going through my form, I can just call?
Oh yeah,
say,
they're the friendliest guys ever. They're the best. They're just the best. So yeah, $80 billion of this bill is going to the IRS, who's going to hire 87,000 new agents. And here's the stat that just blows your mind. Half of the $80 billion is going into enforcement. So the focus will be on the focus will be on households making $200K or less.
No, they would do that.
Oh yeah, because guess what? Middle class, we are the guinea pigs. We are the ones that they can make the most money on. They know they can't go to the billionaires, because the billionaires are smart with the tax code. They know money and they know it better than anybody. Most people. They go to us smaller guys. They go to the middle class because they know they can make the most money on us, and they can take us to court if we don't pay our taxes and mess up one year, right? They go after those people. This will make the IRS larger than all federal law enforcement and the Pentagon combined.
Yeah, so that's Border Patrol. So you know,
FBI.
The great big building, the Pentagon, you see it's freaking ginormous. Do you know how many people work within the Defense Department at the Pentagon? 20,000 people. I think there's 19,000 people employed by the Border Patrol.
I think they originally had 79,000 IRS employees working right now.
Yes.
And they're literally doubling. So they're hiring 87,000 new agents. And I saw something that said, and don't quote me on it, I don't know if this is completely right, but I'm pretty sure each agent can monitor 1,500 people.
Go ahead. I'll just...
okay. I'm going to wrap it up, then we'll talk about the whole thing as a topic. So also, the IRS is arming themselves. And this isn't really a new thing. It just hasn't been talked about. So this year alone, 2022, they spent $700,000 on ammo. And supposedly they have 4,500 guns and over 5 million rounds of ammunition. And it's just so funny because they want to take our gun rights away. My thing is, why does an IRS agent need to have a gun? If you're going to show up to my door with a notice, the worst that's going to happen is, fuck you, I'm not paying this shit. Throw the note on the ground. Okay, why don't you just leave? And if shit gets too crazy, call the cops. They can enforce it. Why do the IRS need to be locked and loaded, and then yet they want to take our gun rights away?
Maybe the ATF is too busy, so they're going to have the IRS start cracking down on the Aryan
It's
Nation.
a little fishy, and I don't care what you say. It's a little scary, and you know that they're going to be coming after the small guys. They're coming after you and I. They're not going after the billionaires. I'm pretty sure they're going to try to go after the billionaires here at the $1 billion mark here. That's what they're saying they're due. But this IRS thing, it's coming after the little guys. It's coming after the middle class.
Well, one thing I will say on this, kind of keep it in perspective, is so this is the plan of the bill is they're going to hire 87,000 new IRS agents. I had a discussion with my CPA yesterday, and we kind of agreed on this. So when you think about how poorly organized the IRS is currently, there was a story out a while ago that last year they shredded nine. I'm not 100% on this number, so if you know this, correct me in the comments. But they shredded like 6 million or 9 million, basically 1099. So when somebody does work for you, if you pay them more than, I don't know what it is now, I think it's down to like $500 or $1,000, you have to give them a 1099. Well, they were so far behind on processing tax returns and forms that they just threw their hands up and they shredded like 6 million 1099s because they don't have enough people to process them. And his point, my CPA's point was, it's like, yeah, you see this in the bill, but at the end of the day, think of the IT department at the IRS trying to hire, basically doubling the size of that bureaucracy. And they're going to try to get every one of those people on the network, get them a laptop, get them, everything, get them a cubicle to work somewhere. And if you think that they're going to be efficient, it will take them decades to do it. Now then, it doesn't make it any less scary that is in that bill and that is their goal. For them to say that, we're going to hire all these agents, but unless you make more than 400,000, we're not going to use them. They're completely lying. That is a complete lie, complete fabrication. And it's just another example of government not being honest with you as a taxpayer and as a voter and as an American citizen. And we should be used to it, but our government is not for the people, and
I don't know when it changed.
And it's not by the people either. This is what happens when you spend generations voting for the lesser of two evils. And that's what we've done. We voted for the lesser of two evils at our local, state, and federal level for so long, because let's face it.
Well,
who wants to be a politician?
Right. Well, and the other thing is, it's just gotten so corrupt. There just so many of the lawyers and the politicians and the congressmen and all that. It's, they're just bought. They're bought. They're
100%.
bought and paid for by corporations so that they vote the bills in that's going to benefit the companies that are greasing them.
Yeah. I'll say this quickly. So I'm a big fan of the All In podcast, which there's 4 guys on that. And if you're a podcast person, you probably know who it is. If you're not, you should check it out. Really sharp guys, but they're pretty evenly split politically. They run the gamut of fairly liberal to very conservative. And it's really unique because they all get along really well.
That's the way
on a relationship basis, but they're pretty far apart politically on a lot of things. But they made a great comment, and they just said, pretty much the country has moved to where the Democrats are run mostly by the lobby of lawyers. So it's on this social fast track to push as far towards communism, socialism, whatever, because it's the trial lawyer lobby, and it is the far left is the money that powers the Democratic Party. And then on the right, it is ran by the far right religious lobby and corporate interest. So corporate interest, they are a pile of that money, and so you have two extreme
polar opposites
that are funneling most of the money, and the rest of us that are in the middle, our voice really isn't heard. And this is off the subject, but I'm not going to go down the whole abortion thing other than to say that, so if you want to see what that looks like, the United States government, the legislature, Barack Obama had the chance to do this, and Joe Biden had the chance to do this. If you were a pro-abortion person, the Democrats had the House, the Senate, and the presidency twice in the last however many years where they totally could have strengthened the laws behind abortion to make it basically
100% legal.
100% legal to where the Supreme Court couldn't have changed it because
they had all the cards.
They had all the cards, and the laws would have been to where all they can do is uphold the law of the Constitution. And if you have a law in the book that's constitutional, which they could have written, they couldn't have overturned it. They chose to not do that, and the reason they didn't do it is because it was more beneficial to them to be able to fundraise off of it. In other words, just like now, Joe Biden had the chance. They could have strengthened Roe versus Wade, but they didn't do it. And the reason they didn't do it is because it was more beneficial to their party to lobby off of it and get big money from East Coast, West Coast, and bring that in than it was to strengthen the law for the common people.
And it caused high levels of division.
Yes.
Between the people in the middle.
And that's what they're at.
That is a fire ass take, because you watch these videos of these Democratic people that are so pissed that they didn't double down and do something about it. Yep. And you saying that right there, that's why.
It is
100% why.
So there's no moral fiber. People get pissed about these politicians. Politicians, I don't give a shit whether you're Republican or Democrat. You have no moral fiber. You have sold your soul so far down the river that you don't even know who you are when you look in the mirror. So the Democrats, they want to tell you that they are for the little guy, they are for the minority, they are for those that are discriminated against. No, they're not. They are for perpetuating division within our country because that is how they profit. And they used Roe versus Wade as a fundraising opportunity. That's it. Bottom line.
Because they easily could have done what they wanted to do.
It shouldn't have even been, the Supreme Court shouldn't have been able to hear that case if they would have done what they ran for. And you know, obviously I'm not a pro. My whole thing about most of this comes down to, I don't care what you do. I just don't want to pay for it. And I don't feel like the government should be able to legislate your morals. You know, you can do what you want to do. I just don't want to have to pay for it. But this is a case where you've got all of these politicians that ran on this and said, we're going to protect it, and this is wrong.
We're going to strengthen it.
They had the chance, they didn't do it. And that just tells me that you are a complete sham. You should not be believed. Anything that comes out of your mouth should not be believed because you had the chance to do it and you didn't do it. And I'm just picking on them. There's plenty of examples of conservatives where they could have done things that they ran on and they didn't do it because they would rather fundraise on it.
Yep.
So anyway.
Oh, that was fire. I won't lie. That was a good take. That was really good. Okay. So to wrap this whole bill up, in summary, this bill is called, what's it called? Inflation Reduction Act. And by listening to all this stuff, I do not know how this is going to reduce inflation at all. How is this going to reduce inflation at all? It's just not. It's a shitty ass title for a bill.
There really isn't any. There's really not much in it that is like, fiduciary to control inflation.
No.
And our government is.
I feel like they honestly threw that in because it's just a trending word right now.
Well, yeah, they had to name it something.
Yeah.
So that's what they named it.
Good God.
Yeah, it doesn't help anybody at the end.
Yeah,
of the day.
and then it's just back to what we said. I put in here, thoughts. Who will this hurt the most? And it's going to hurt the people on what you said, the three classes, lower, middle, the wealthy. The people that are on that edge are going to be the ones that can least afford the product, or at least afford it. They're the ones that are going to get hit the hardest, which is unfortunate. But
100%.
Yeah, so when you read between the lines of this bill, there's really not a lot of good. There's a lot of shit.
Nope.
There's a lot of
Pork
shit.
barrel. It's a pork barrel.
Yep. So, moving on. So, Brittney Griner, WNBA star, sentenced to 9 years in Russian prison and fined $16,700 for drug trafficking charges. So, pretty much, you guys probably all heard of this. WNBA star. She's been an amazing athlete for the WNBA. She brought 1 gram of cannabis oil into Russia in February, got stopped at the airport, got detained, got thrown in jail, went on trial, obviously got sentenced to 9 years. And now the U.S. and Russia are in prisoner swap talk. So Russia wants a 55-year-old Soviet arms dealer who's in prison for selling weapons to the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and also got charged for plotting to kill U.S. nationalists. So that tells you the kind of guy he is. And my thoughts on this whole situation is it's just a shitty deal all around. I feel bad for the girl. I feel bad for the woman because, she comes from America. She probably smokes weed a little bit, and she can because it's legal in some states, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's like what you said. If you want to do what you want to do, I just don't want to pay for it. Same goes for this. So I feel bad for her in that way, but at the same time, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You're going to Russia.
Yes.
You're going to Russia where Vladimir Putin is. And I just don't think, I think a lot of times Americans, we just think we're in this bubble. And we just don't realize how it is in other places. And when you go to Russia, especially in the times that we're in against Russia right now, or whatever you want to say, it's rocky times with Russia right now in America. And you go and you have an illegal drug there, they are very, very strict. They are not socially where we are as Americans.
They're not going to let an opportunity go to waste.
No, especially in the situation we're in with them.
She was notable. She was. I mean, I didn't know who she was, but
I'm sure as soon as they figured out who it was, they were like,
yeah.
Putin was like, yes, we're taking this opportunity.
Here's some advice. If you're going to this country, like I honestly, if I was to go to China or to Russia or just about any foreign country that wasn't, I guess I'd call top shelf as far as their democracy or their politics is, I think I would be like, there's like, I know stories of some NFL players that every town they go to, they take nothing. And then they have somebody go buy all their toiletries and everything when they're there and for them it's because they don't want the thought of forgetting something, so they just take nothing and then they buy it all when they're there. If I went to Russia, I would not take anything. I would not take anything.
No.
I would get off the plane and I would go buy whatever I needed for the time I was there, so as not to have the opportunity that I had anything that I'm going to get screwed on.
And I feel bad in a sense for her too, because she goes to Russia to play basketball in the off season. She's done that for, I guess, many seasons that she's been in the WNBA. So she was just going to play ball, and she might have had a home there. I don't know. She's obviously been there before.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
and she's just
it's just the times that we're in. You just gotta.
She's a pawn, and then
totally, she's a pawn.
The other thing is
So I was just gonna say the one thing that I don't like about the whole trade talks is, yes, I think we should try to get her back to the country. She won, played stupid games, win stupid prizes, but if they do the trade, which I don't like them sending back a Soviet arms dealer that was planning on killing U.S. nationalists that's been in America for so long, getting who God knows what information in prison. sending them back to Russia. I don't like that. But if you do it, it sends a message to every man and woman that have been charged with marijuana possession in this country that you don't give a flying fuck about them. And the only reason you care about that girl that got charged and is in prison in Russia is because she's a WNBA star and we don't fucking matter.
Well, she's a tool. She's
a tool.
Yeah.
So to those guys, that's not going to sit well with a lot of those people that have marijuana possession. And let's be honest, guys, it's fucking 2022. It's going to become legalized. I don't care if you smoke weed. Dad doesn't care if you smoke weed. Most people don't care if you smoke weed as long as we don't pay for it. And that's the way it should be. It's already legal in so many states. So why are we paying all this money to keep these prisoners in prison that have marijuana possession when they didn't do any, terrible thing, I guess. Yeah. That's my thing. So it's just going to send a shitty message, but all around shitty deal. I don't know obviously you don't want an American to rot in Russian prison, but it's the way it is right now.
So I thought this was interesting. 2 weeks ago or whatever, we were talking just a little bit about whiskey, and I had a bottle of Blue Run and talked about that. I'm kind of getting into that a little bit. And a couple people commented, and I can't remember the gal's name, but somebody said, told Sawyer on one of his social media outlets that I should try Bullet. And I thought I had a bottle of Bullet, and I told Sawyer, I said, we're going to do Whiskey of the Week. And I went to grab it, and I don't have a bottle of Bullet. I must have used it all. It was actually a gift from a buddy of mine gave me a bottle of Bullet, and I tried it, and I liked it. So my Whiskey of the Week this week had to change. So this is a bottle of Knob Creek 12-year, and it's kind of interesting because there was a time when Knob Creek started, when they started bottling Knob Creek, that you could get, I think they had they might have had 6-year, 9-year, 12-year, something like that. And then the 12-year all went away, or they quit putting it on the label, and it's because it sold better than what they thought it was going to, I'm assuming. And so they just took it off the label, and basically they didn't have any 12-year for a while. And then here, I want to say it's probably been, if I think it's been a year ago, maybe it's been longer than that, but I feel like it's been about a year. They brought it back. Because they've got barrels that are aging, and as the popularity of Knob Creek grew,
I feel like we need to take a celebratory, or how do you say that word?
A celebratory pour.
Yeah. Take a shot.
So this, if I can get the wax strip off of it, this one hasn't even been opened. I got it.
If we're gonna do Whiskey of the Week, we might as well drink the whiskey.
Yeah. Well, so they say you're supposed to listen to the pop. Well, there went the wax. Ooh, that was crisp.
That was heavenly.
So, yeah, I should turn it the other way. So, yeah, Knob Creek, 12-year.
Are you going to pull it, or are you going to pour it in a glass?
No, I'm going to pour it in a glass.
You want some ice?
No, I'm just going to do it neat.
Oh, yeah.
Not too big. About like that. Here, I'll just trade you. Set that one down. And this isn't a real expensive bottle. I mean, that's one thing people question. Like that bottle of Blue Run I had, that was a pretty expensive bottle. If you were to buy it on the secondary market, I honestly can't remember what I paid for it. I probably shouldn't have paid what I did, but I've been looking for it for a long time, so I just got it. But Knob Creek is pretty common. Cheers to you, El Conquistador. So smells pretty good.
I like it.
It's got a little oaky.
It does have an oaky flavor to it.
Aftertaste.
Yeah, that's smooth. If I had some ice in here a little bit, that'd be perfect.
Yeah. It's a double pull for me.
How much is it, do you know?
I want to. Boy, you really put me on the spot, but Knob Creek usually, I bet you that 12-year bottle's probably $50. Probably around
good.
There.
I'd buy it.
So,
yeah. I just figured, Dad threw the idea out. You guys you kind of like the whiskey talk a little bit, the bourbon talk. So I think every once in a while we're going to do a Whiskey of the Week and have a little glass and tell you what our thoughts about it.
Yeah.
So.
And there isn't anything that I've got that's very, crazy. I don't have any high dollar bottles. I feel like Iowa's kind of crappy because I look at on Twitter, I look at a little bit of whiskey talk, bourbon talk, whatever, and guys on there, they walk into these liquor stores, especially out east and south, and they pick up a bottle of E.H. Taylor, or they pick up a bottle of Blanton's, or they pick up a bottle of this. We don't ever have that. I mean, I go to the liquor store in Washington, and I don't go that often, but when I do, they don't ever have anything good. It's like, I feel like Iowa's kind of like a desert when it comes to really
good whiskey,
well acclaimed whiskey. Though you just don't get a lot of those big brand names, but that's all right, because if it was there, I'd just be pissed because I'd look at it and go, I'd really like to have it, but that's too damn much money. So
we just need to make our own. Okay, so I had a little piss break there. Had a good whiskey of the week. Knob Creek, shout out to you. No shameless plug there, but you make some pretty good whiskey. So let's get into another thing that we're going to talk about. Trump got raided by the FBI. Dun, dun, dun. Trump got raided. FBI took 15 boxes of classified documents. And so pretty much what happened was Trump was in office, and it was on the last day that he was in office. So he took the documents from the White House and went on the plane to go to his house that wasn't the White House. And while he was on the plane, he wasn't president anymore. So then now he had these documents, and he wasn't supposed to have these documents. And so he just kept the documents, and he was actually in talks, negotiation, to giving them back, but they went behind his back and went to the federal government, and then the FBI came and they got a search warrant and they raided his house. And so that's that. And then a federal appeals court signed off on a House Ways and Means Committee request to obtain Trump's tax returns from the IRS. So another punch thrown at Trump's way. So his house got raided. Then somebody wants his damn tax returns to look at them. And then right after the raid, Trump posted a campaign ad style video onto his social media platform, Truth Social. So he put that out there after the raid. I think he did it to show strength and to show that he's not afraid and he's still looking to run, because that's what it kind of looked like, a campaign ad style video. So it looks like Trump's going to run again, which take it or leave it. But all I have to say about all this stuff is they are scared of Donald Trump to run again, because he was not, whatever you want to say about Donald Trump, I don't care what you say, the guy wasn't bought and paid for by the establishment. He did things that he wanted to do that he thought was right for the American people, and our economy was the best it's ever been, and there was a lot of jobs created. Did everything out of his mouth come out great? No. But was he a pretty damn good leader of our country? I would say yes. And he wasn't bought and paid for the establishment, and he wasn't getting greased every second like the rest of these crooked fucks are. So I just think it's funny that, over the decade and over the last, however many presidents or politicians there's been, a few scandals here and there. And, Obama spent $36 million fighting for the fact to take certain things with him and keep things private after his presidency. But no one says shit about that. No one raids Barack Obama's house. Hillary Clinton's emails. Remember that whole scandal? She hid the emails. She got rid of the servers. She smashed BlackBerries. She bleached towers. It doesn't matter. There was no raid. No one ever raided Hillary Clinton's house. Hunter Biden's laptop. Doesn't matter. No one talks about it. No one wants to talk about it on the news. Doesn't matter. No raid. No one's going to raid Hunter Biden. No one's going to raid Biden's house. Trump taking documents while he was president and, negotiating with him back and forth to give him back eventually, but then they just go behind his back and they raid his house. Because what does it look like to the media? What does it look like to the American people? They want to cause a stir. They want to bring this guy down before he even has a chance to run again, because they're fucking afraid. They are afraid of Donald Trump, and that is why they don't want him to run, and they're going to do anything and everything they can to make it so he can't run. And I don't care what you say, the 4 years that he was president, that was the most a president has ever took in a 4-year in their term ever. He got absolutely just bashed every chance he possibly could get bashed, and I think he did. The reason why he did was he wasn't bought and paid for the establishment, and they didn't have control and power, so they used media outlets to absolutely destroy his name and everything that he stood for a reason. And this is the same reason. They're doing the same thing so he doesn't run. And I just think it's funny. There's so many problems in this administration in this country right now. Border is out of control. Gun violence is running high in the most restrictive gun law cities there are in the United States. Drugs and crime is rampant. And the FBI says they don't have the time nor the resources to even try to help us out and keep us safe as Americans in that aspect. But they have time to go and raid Donald Trump's house.
With 30.
No, it was 100.
What?
I'm pretty sure I heard it was 100 FBI agents went. I'm pretty sure I heard it could have been 30, but I heard it was 100.
I heard it was 30, but
whatever.
I
Don't quote us on the exact number, but that's a lot of guys to go raid a house and get 50, boxes of documents. But it just lets you know where their priorities are. It really does. And I just think it's more political poison. It's political poison. It's this game to try to manipulate the American people's minds, and that's what it is. Tell them your theory, though.
Okay. Well, I will. One thing I want to say, when you said that about the documents that he took when he was president, some of you might be like, well, if he wanted to give them back to government, why didn't he just give them back to him? Well, the reason that you have attorneys negotiating that is because when you have documents that I'm assuming part of those were for his eyes only, and they may not have been that high dollar or more important, but the fact that they raided to get them may or may not be a signal that they were fairly important. But that's not the kind of thing that you can just pull up to an FBI office and drop them off to anybody. So that's why when he said that they were negotiating the return of those, is because I think at that level of government, everything is a negotiation, because they would have to be handed off in a way that nobody that didn't have the clearance to view them got the chance to view them. And so I'm sure there was a lot of back and forth on that. And I think that at the end of the day, this was entirely for optics, like you said. I don't think that there was really anything in there that was of national security, because if it would have been, this would have happened a long time ago.
Way sooner. Yeah.
So this is drug on all this time.
Getting close to midterms.
Yep. And so, I mean, don't kid yourself. There's a reason that it happened, when it happened, and how it happened, and he wasn't there. So I just feel like there's a lot of things that they orchestrated this for the look they wanted it to have. That said, I don't share the point of view. There's a lot of people that have the point of view that Donald Trump is going to run for president in 2024. And I don't have that point of view, and I haven't had that point of view. I honestly think that what he is doing is he's basically fallen on the sword for Ron DeSantis. He and Ron DeSantis have spoke many times, and let's face it, if they talked, most of the time you wouldn't know about it. And I think that and this is all going to, obviously this is going to happen. So
it's gonna play
this
out.
might or might not age well.
This is your opinion.
This is my opinion, 100%.
I think it's a good take. So,
But I think that Trump knows that he is such a polarizing figure, and that his presidency, what he got done and what he attempted to do as far as with the bureaucracy of government, under no circumstances is the
establishment.
Is the establishment machine going to allow him to become president again? It's not going to happen. They will do anything to stop that from happening. And the other thing is, it's so crazy in our country. Politics is like country music in the fact that suburban white women make the decision of who gets to be president. Because the reason Donald Trump won was because suburban women came out in droves to support him. And the reason he lost, if you believe that he lost not because the election was manipulated, which I don't know about that. I can't comment on that. But he carried more minority votes in his reelection than he did in his original election. However, he lost the vote of suburban women. They voted for Joe Biden because they were tired of the nasty speech and the rhetoric and just the nastiness of politics, and Joe Biden was going to be the kinder, gentler uniter that he hasn't been. So, which that's how everybody wonders why country music's so shitty. It's because it's all geared towards what suburban women will buy. That's why you don't hear enough good quality country music anymore. Did you know that?
Well, yeah, I think new
towards.
country's not as good as old country for sure.
But I digress. Anyway, I think that Donald Trump knows that, but the political establishment is so scared of him and he's so polarizing that he is basically going to run a campaign, clear up to a point, and then he is going to drop out and he is going to throw his support behind Ron DeSantis.
So you're saying he's going to take all the arrows because all the attention from the media and the left and the establishment is going to be focusing on stopping Trump in any possible way they can, doing all the stories on Trump so they're not focused on doing stories on DeSantis and bringing him down. And then when that's done and DeSantis, it's almost like they're going to do a shake and bake.
Yep. Yeah,
Ricky Bobby style, baby. Slingshot engage.
I think they honest to God are going to slingshot.
They're going to do a slingshot.
I think Trump will declare that he's going to run. I think that he will campaign through the primaries?
Yeah, I think so.
And then he will drop out and he will throw all his support behind DeSantis. And I think that you will see the Trump political machine work for DeSantis. I think that everything that he's built as far as an infrastructure, he will put behind DeSantis, because I think he knows that
if that happens, DeSantis is going to win. There's no way he doesn't win.
Well, I don't think there's any way that the Democrats hold power. They've done so much divisiveness.
The only way they win
is manipulation. Yeah. And it's funny because...
And I'm not talking through the media.
Well, right. So in Texas, there is a district in Texas that has been liberal, Democrat, voted Democrat every election for, I don't know, let's say the last 20 years. And a woman she won the primary down there running as a Republican. And it's 90% Latino or Hispanic. And it is an example of how the Democrats have lost the minority vote, because they have gone so all in on the extremist climate change, LGBTQBR, whatever that is. And everything as far to the left as you want to go, that's what they've gone in on. And they've left the minorities. They're not the party of minorities anymore. And they've seen how that they've hurt them with the violence and the unrest in your inner cities, and the spike in gasoline prices and all that stuff. And so they went Republican. And I think it was the New York Times did a story, and their answer to that outcome was that this was an example of how fake news is even stronger when converted to Spanish. Basically saying that those people weren't smart enough to vote for themselves, that they had all bought into propaganda, and that it was fake news. All the stuff that they absorbed was false, but that Spanish, they're even more susceptible, that they're not bright enough.
This was in a New York Times article.
Yeah.
They wrote that.
Yeah. That was their narrative, was that the reason
Hispanics
for that,
take fake news better than
right, and that they had bought all of the rhetoric, and that's why they had voted, not because.
Oh, you're saying that Trump put this fake news in their head and they bought it, and that's why Trump
they voted
won.
for that. That's why they voted for that woman.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why they voted Republican after voting Democrat
for so long.
For so long,
right?
Was because they had bought into
no
the fake
accountability.
Yeah, and not that it was the battle of ideas, not that her ideas were better.
So pretty much they insulted the whole
everybody that voted
the
for
Hispanic community, because they're pretty much calling you stupid,
right,
for the way that you voted.
And let's face it, I mean that's what they've done with the African American vote.
Yep, saying that you're not smart enough to have an ID and you don't know where the polls are, and so we got to have no voter ID anywhere, right, because it's because of the African American community. They don't know.
They're not bright enough.
That's what they want to tell. They tell us, they say these things like it's a noble thing to say, but you just insulted a whole population of America. That it's just an insult. It's sick. It's messed up. You can't tell, like, that's the most racist thing you can say, in my opinion. That is so counterintuitive to what you stand for. It's just back to the abortion thing. You stand for Black Lives Matter. You stand for being for the Hispanics, but then you do these kind of articles and say this kind of shit.
Well, it's not that. It's your voting record. It's what you've done. And you've done nothing to help them.
We've talked about this before about the whole voter ID thing, but they said that African Americans most of them don't have IDs, and most of them aren't smart enough to know where to go vote at, because, and that was their excuse. Because that's, what was it? What do you call? Discriminating against. Yeah. They're discriminated against, and it's not fair in America, and that's why they can't go vote, which is total bullshit. You talk to any black man, black woman on the street in America, they got an ID, and they know where the fuck to go vote.
Well, and I think part of that...
And the whole let me finish. The whole reason that they said that narrative was so that they could get no voter ID anywhere, so that anyone could show up in waves to vote.
Yeah.
And they could, let's fucking say it, manipulate the next election. Because if they don't have voter ID at these polls, these polling stations, anyone can walk in there and get that shit done.
That's why whenever I see one of my good Democrat friends at the polls when we vote, and he'll say, if we see each other, he'll say, I'm going to go cancel your vote. I'll say, it's fine. I'm coming back later to vote again. And then he just kind of looks happy, But it's a page.
Hey, they can clone dogs now. They can clone humans.
Yeah. Oh, the Chinese. Well, the Chinese need to, because their population is drawing.
Well, that's
so
what
fast
people have been saying.
That they probably are. It's somewhere in China. It looks like the Matrix.
Could be.
They got a big warehouse full of pods that they're growing the next generation, because their population's dropping so fast. I think we took a turn. We took a turn down.
That's all right. It's a little light. It's a little light.
I think that the midterms are obviously going to go Republican. I think the Democrats are even already they've kind of given up on that. I don't think that there's any chance that they're going to pull that out. I think what it's really going to come down to is how good a quality of candidates we get on the Republican side, whether they have the huevos to actually make some hard decisions. And there's a lot of pain ahead That's what I was going to talk about. Is there's a lot of pain ahead for this country, and that's something that we don't like, and that's why you get politicians that have kicked the can down the road for so long. Is you can't make as bad a decisions repeatedly for as long as we have in this country and not have some pain at the end. And a big part of that pain is our debt from just writing checks that never get cashed and social programs. And how much is this bill? 780, 860? They should have just made it an even
740 billion.
Yeah. I mean, we throw billions out now like it's nothing. And that money, that's the thing. That money, that's got to come from somewhere. And we've printed a lot of money, but at some point you either have to devalue your currency enough that debt gets devalued away, or it has to be paid back in real assets. And there's so much debt in the world now that I don't think that it all can be. There's not enough assets in the world to pay back the debt that is in the world. I think somebody can correct me on that. But so that means that somewhere there's somebody that either isn't going to get paid, or you have to devalue the currency. You have to print enough money that debt just gets devalued away. And I don't think that's going to happen either. So there's a lot of tough times ahead, and my biggest fear is that we just are at a point where there aren't enough strong men or women, I say that, to weather the storm that's coming politically.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I'll just say it. I think the left, what they're trying to do is they're going to try to flip our country and make it communist. And they're going to try to make the conditions of our country so bad enough that they're going to blame it all on capitalism, which in turn will make people want something different, and then they'll provide that solution. They'll provide that solution, which will be communism, which will be actually referred to as safety. So you'll lose your freedom, but you'll be safe. Mm-hmm. You'll be safe. We can't let you put this on the internet because it's dangerous. It's dangerous. We have to censor you. You can't walk outside because the virus, because it's dangerous. We got to keep you inside because it's safe. You can't travel across the world on an airplane without the virus, without the shot, because it's dangerous. We got to keep you safe.
Hey, did you see
that? That is where they want to go. They want to take your freedom away, because I think they realize us as Americans, with the use of social media and the internet, we're waking up to the shit and the corruption that's been going on. And we elected a man that isn't bought and paid for by the establishment and we have came up with our own digital currency. So we don't need banks anymore. We're not voting the people they want in anymore. And it fucking scares the shit out of them because they're losing control. The elites are losing control, and they have to really put the reins on us and give us communism to stop that in its tracks. Because for a long time it was give a man freedom and he'll work like a slave, right? We'll let you just do whatever you want, but you still work for us and you can work in our system, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It's not like that anymore.
No.
We've waken up, we communicate with each other in a way that's never been done before. We receive information faster and from so many different point of views like it's never been before. And they're no longer can just give us freedom, because if they give us freedom, we're going to unite, and they don't want that. Yeah. They're going to have to give us a solution, which will be safety.
To finish,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. What's really scary is it's probably been 2 years ago. I listened to a guy. The interview was on Real Vision, and I cannot remember the guy's name. He's made all of his money in real estate, and he's a first generation American in the fact that he was born when his family came here. I think that's right. But his dad was the only one out of his family. He's Jewish. and his dad is the only member of his family that left Poland before the Germans came. They literally took his sister, his mother, and his father were on the last train that came out of Poland before the Germans invaded, and none of his aunts, uncles, cousins, none of them
survived.
His dad pleaded with them to come
with them,
and Poland, the Polish had a great relationship with the Germans, and they said all of his family members told his dad that
you're crazy.
That yeah, there's no reason to worry, that the Germans have been great to the Polish and that it was all going to be fine. But they had heard the stories of the oppression that were going on within Germany and all the things politically that had been happening, the people that were being silenced and the people that were going away and never to be seen again and all that. And his dad made the decision. They shut their business down and they cashed in everything they could and bought gold, I think. I think all they had were gold coins and the diamonds that they had bought with cash in Poland. And they went from Poland to Russia, all the way across Russia, and went from Russia to Japan, and then from Japan to the United States. And all this happened before Japan and the United States, before the United States declared war on Japan, and you could still get, and I can't remember how long it took him, but a long time. And his point of all of this that happened was that,
and this was the son now.
This was the son, and the son was born. I want to say actually that he was born in the United States, that his mother was pregnant during this trip. He's an old man now, obviously, but his point was that his dad had always made the comment how thankful he was that America was here because it was the only place that they could go, you know, being Jewish, that they weren't going to be oppressed. Mm-hmm. And his message to the guy that was interviewing him was that the problem that we all have is, he said, today, if we don't fight for our way of life, for what we have, he said, there is no place that I would put my wife and my children on a train
to go to leave.
There's no place left to go. Yeah. This is the last.
This is the motherland.
This is it.
This is freedom. So this is why these conversations are important. This is why uniting is important. This is why we got to talk about this shit and discuss it, because we're the ones that can change it. The people have the power. There's only so many elites, and they look at us like we're fucking ants. These people look at us like pawns. But if we all said fuck you to the system, if it ever came down to that, if we couldn't change it, we hold the power. Because we get shit done. We've always gotten shit done. We are the working class of America. And if, you know, we get shit done. So we just got to unite again. And, you know, that's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
Got to have these kind of conversations. I think it was a really, really good one. I thoroughly enjoyed talking about it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got any value, please share the show. Share it out with your friends, family, coworkers, and pay the fee, guys. Leave a review on Spotify, Apple, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you back here again for another episode.
Thanks for watching.